Peace and love, everyone. This is Amari Nyota Kweli, and I am excited to be here for another episode of the fantastic FeeLgr8r Friday photo scavenger hunt Zoom call. Try saying that fast. Oh, and I'm excited about the new FeeLgr8r shirt. Man, this really captures that FeeLgr8r moment when a basketball player wins the winning shot. It is the fantastic FeeLgr8r Friday photo scavenger hunt Zoom call. How many words is that? Let's do it one more time. The fantastic FeeLgr8r Friday photo scavenger hunt Zoom call. 8 words. Try saying that fast. So today on FeeLgr8r Friday, I want to actually walk you through a few things. My co-host Nura is unfortunately unable to join in this episode, but it just means it's going to be a shorter episode, but we're going to cover a lot. You ready? Let's go. If you watched episode 1, you know what this is for. The soft, beautiful, curly hair that I love to comb. Yes, yes, yes. And of course, for the deep fakes out there, you know, I got the Pat King hat. You see the logo, it's right there. But we're going to keep the hat off for now. So I have a few things I want to cover. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I would like you to see what I see. I'm at FeeLgr8r right now, and I'm on the About page. Now, the first thing I want to point out, I'm going to highlight this. I moved this from this location to this location on the screen. And it's saying what the date is, and it's also letting us know what day it is as in terms of the daily theme. Now, if you click the daily theme, it will open, let me move this out the way, a description of the daily theme. So this is the first thing we're going to talk about. Every day has a daily theme. Let's start with Sunday. Sensational Simplicity Sundays. Now, when you think about Sunday and how you could tap into what would be some of the most simple pleasures of life, I want to reflect on Saturday before we get to Sunday, though. So Saturday is about experiencing the most complex, sophisticated pleasures of life. Those are the hardest ones to acquire. And for that reason, Sunday is about simplicity. So on Saturday, we go from sophisticated, complex pleasures to Sunday being a relaxed day, simple pleasures. Now, can you think of any complex pleasures, any sophisticated ones? Well, I would describe those as experiences that either require a lot of people, a lot of coordination, as we like to say, FeeLgr8r makings, the planning aspect of bringing people together. It can get pretty complex. Just ask any event promoter, any event organizer. They'll tell you there's a lot that goes behind the scenes when we're talking about bringing people together or going to places that have a lot of people involved. A lot of different moving parts, a lot of components, the travel, the hotel, all those different things that come with traveling, the Airbnb that you might stay at. So it can get complicated. Whereas on Sunday, the idea is to keep it simple. Do one thing, do two things, but it shouldn't require that much investment of energy. The getting there part should be relatively easy as well. And then you can just experience what would be the zenith point of simplicity. So you get 2 types of pleasures with the FeeLgr8r daily themes. And then comes Monday. Monday, we all love Monday, right? Marvelous Maneuvering Mondays. I'm just going to read what that is. Mondays are great for focusing one's intention on experiencing the joy of planning and successfully maneuvering closer towards one's goals in life. So what I'm trying to describe here is that the maneuvering aspect of life, Monday is the perfect day to address those types of shifts that you have to make. There's no guarantee that it's going to happen on Monday, but if you place your intention on addressing the logistics on Monday, then hopefully the rest of the week will be pretty smooth. So that's one thing I would recommend as part of the FeeLgr8r Daily Theme and the FeeLgr8r Life, is to focus on maneuvering on Mondays, because on Sunday you had a simple day. Monday you're ready for the maneuvering aspects. And maneuvering is not always painful. People think maneuvering is like, oh man, I gotta change things, I have to adapt. It doesn't have to be a painful process. Oftentimes, maneuvering, think about like when you're driving and you might be going from point A to point B, and out of the blue, one of the streets are closed. The street you were expecting, or the GPS was telling you to make a turn at, you can't go down that street. There's construction happening. Now you have to keep going forward or make a U-turn. You have to maneuver, right? Well, what happens if you maneuver, you go down another street and you see your best friend, you see a family member you haven't seen in a while, right? Or what if you go down, you take another turn and you see this beautiful animal or this amazing tree that you didn't even know was on that block? Or even better, this new car, this awesome house that one of your neighbors just got, right? And you're like, oh, wow, I didn't even know this was over here. And now you're celebrating with them as you drive past. So maneuvering doesn't necessarily have to be a problem. It can actually be a blessing in disguise. All right, let's move on. Terrific Treatment Tuesdays. What is that about? Tuesdays are great for focusing one's attention on experiencing the best treatment towards family and friends. So on Tuesday, we're usually trying to recover from Monday, right? Like, oh gosh, that was a tough day. Well, on Monday, we were enjoying the maneuvering process. On Tuesday, we're focusing on treatment. So it's a great time to think about, how can I treat not just myself better, but how can I treat the people that I love better? What can I focus on as far as they're concerned? Let me look at my family and friends and see, and possibly have a conversation with them about things that maybe I need to apologize for, or things that I overlooked, was negligent on. Let me make up for that today. Let me now intentionally focus my day on treating them the best way that I can. So that's Terrific Treatment Tuesdays. All right, moving right along. Wonderful Well-Being Wednesdays. Wednesdays are great for focusing one's attention on experiencing the best healthy wellness activities with family and friends. So you may not be thinking about wellness activities on Saturday or Sunday. Hopefully you are, at least on Sunday, but definitely on Well-Being Wednesdays. Make it your priority, make it your intention to get out there with your family and friends and collectively together perform a well-being activity. And what is a well-being activity? It's really anything that improves your health. But there are well-being activities out there that have already, we have already brainstormed and provided. There are event promoters that have already provided well-being activities that you need to support. Hopefully they're on Wednesday. Don't do it alone if you don't have to. Bring a family member, bring a friend, and have that memory together, because it will become a FeeLgr8r memory for y'all. So a well-being activity that I can think of that I probably would like would be something like sun gazing. That's a well-being activity. And people think, oh, sun gazing is so boring. What are you talking about, Amari? No, it's boring because you made it boring. Actually, part of what sun gazing is finding the perfect spot to sun gaze. It's the discovery of new locations to observe the sun at. So for example, there's a place that I like to drive by near the airport where planes are taking off and planes are landing. And it also just happens to have a nice angle on the sun. So imagine that I have this beautiful angle of the sun. I have my family and friend with me. We're enjoying the wonderful weather. And then all of a sudden this plane flies off, takes off, or flies over us as it's landing. Imagine that sensation. So all the wind generated from the plane landing or taking off, the sound of the engine, the vibration, and then the sun on top of that. You didn't know sun gazing could be so exciting, did you? All right, let's move along. Thankful, Thoughtful Thursdays. Thursdays are great for focusing one's intention on on communicating thoughts to share feelings of sincere gratitude to family and friends. So what does that mean? Well, we know about thankfulness. Being intentional to reach out to your family and friends and actually thank them for being who they are. They didn't have to do anything for you. Just their very presence in your life is something you should be grateful for. Excuse me while I take a sip of this. Their very presence you should be thankful for. And then anything in addition to that, like if they did something nice for you. It could have been granular, it could have been small. It could be huge. But even if it's granular and small, on Thankful, Thoughtful Thursdays, what we want to do, what I try to do, and what you probably should try to do too, is to reach out to that person and thank them for even the smallest thing they may have done. The benefit of that is through the act of gratitude, it opens your love chakra. It really just allows you to pour that love out freely from yourself into the environment, to the people that you're around. So it just doesn't happen on Thursdays. As a matter of fact, on Fridays, on Fantastic Fridays, you're also in a mental awareness of gratitude. So Thankful, Thoughtful Thursdays, very important. And then Fantastic FeeLgr8r Fridays, that's what we're at now. Fridays are great for focusing one's intention on celebrating the good and sharing the FeeLgr8r vibe with family and friends. So you should be celebrating all the time when you're in the FeeLgr8r life, but we designate a day specifically, which is Friday, for celebrating all the good that happened in the week. Starting from Sunday with the simplicity, Monday with the maneuvering, Tuesday with the treatment, Wednesday with the well-being, Thursdays with being thankful and thoughtful. We're celebrating all of that. If we made it to Friday, we're celebrating it all. That's the good. That's the great. FeeLgr8r Fridays. Woo! And that's the energy. That's the vibe that we are going to be experiencing on Fridays. But of course, anytime we have a FeeLgr8r moment, we're experiencing that vibe. But truly on Fridays, we want to be intentional about bringing that awareness to everyone in our circle. That is Fantastic FeeLgr8r Friday. Woo! Which is today. And I mentioned it in the beginning, superbly satisfying Saturdays. Saturdays are great for focusing one's attention on experiencing the zenith point of the most complex and sophisticated pleasures in life with family and friends. Saturday's a perfect day for that because Saturday, most people, not all, but most are off from work. You can dedicate your time to those complex and sophisticated pleasures in life, but more importantly, experience those pleasures with your family and friends and make those wonderful FeeLgr8r memories. So with that said, that covers the FeeLgr8r Daily Theme. All right, let's change the page now. I want to go to the feed and just take a quick look and see what we have here. We've got some nice reposts and covering a lot of pretty cool stuff. Let's see, do I want to point out anything? Coco has entered and won her Grand Slam tournament. She is the winner. Let's just pull this picture up here. Congratulations to Coco, only 19. And there she is with her proud parents. Now, if that's not a FeeLgr8r moment, I don't know what is. So congratulations to Coco, being an amazing tennis player. Let's see what else we have here. The Beastie Boys, they got a street named after them. Beastie Boys Square. Wow. Now, if you don't know who the Beastie Boys are, make sure you Google them, go on YouTube or Apple Music or whatever platform you're on. Check out their music. It's from back in the day, you know, when hip hop was just loaded with amazing content and just, you know, on another level. I can't really say that for hip hop today, but you know, it is what it is. But this is a FeeLgr8r moment, definitely for the Beastie Boys. So well deserved. They got their street sign, Beastie Boys Square. All right, let's do one more. Let's see. I'm looking. This one was interesting. I was like, wow, look at that. For the first time ever, 3 Black women swept the podium at the U.S. Gymnastics Championship. That is just a beautiful picture there. That is just a beautiful picture. So congratulations to those 3 beautiful Black women for sweeping the podium at the U.S. Gymnastics Championship. So the feed concept is pretty simple. The feed pulls in what would be FeeLgr8r moments tagged with FeeLgr8r, primarily from Facebook. So when, or if there's some popular FeeLgr8r news that needs to be shared with the community to recycle that FeeLgr8r energy, this moderated feed brings that into one place so that it can be recycled. And you just never know who can be positively impacted by the feed. That's why I love it so much. And sometimes I'm impacted by it. I might not be having a great day in the moment. I might have to do some maneuvering that isn't so pleasant. And coming to the feed, it just really oftentimes just brings me from here back up to here, to the higher level, the higher state of love, joy, and happiness, but more importantly, FeeLgr8r. All right. Now let's go to finds. In finds, what you're going to see would be posts that come from Instagram that are discovered based on a game that I created called the Photo Scavenger Hunt. Now, the Photo Scavenger Hunt is very simple. The way it works is I give a hashtag that would be on Instagram, and those that are on the Zoom call playing the game will then go search the hashtag and look for authentic FeeLgr8r moments. So what you're seeing here would be from this week's game, the different posts that were shared. And as you can see here, it covers a lot of different kinds of FeeLgr8r moments. I see anniversaries, I see weddings, I see new jobs, I see job promotions, I see new babies, new pets. Wow, just look at all of this. I see, what else? New car, new house, wellness, exercise, weight loss accomplishments. So every time we play, we decide which hashtags to use during that particular game. And the posts that are found in the scavenger hunt that match the FeeLgr8r concept are posted here under finds. And then from finds, we select 3 winners and they make their way to the winners page. So these 3 winners here are posts from the finds. And then from there, if you go to Cube, the content from the winners as well as from the channels, which we'll get to, is then used. We create 6 pieces of digital art. And those digital arts, each one appears on the face of the FeeLgr8r Winners Cube. So if you take a look at this week's Cube, which was posted last Saturday, you might see why different images were created based upon the FeeLgr8r moments that were shared to inspire these images. The tennis one, as you can see, goes directly to Coco and her win. That she inspired that. The start of the NFL season, right? That inspired the football picture. This image here, it's a FeeLgr8r moment. One of the winners were in the yoga. So we use the content from the channels as well as the winners, as well as what's going on in the world to inspire what would be the content, the art that we create for the Winners Cube. And finally, channels. Since we pull inspiration from the channels as well, we have what would be our birthday shouts channel. Let's see whose birthday just passed recently. This is where we would highlight various public figures who are recently celebrating a birthday. And let's see, we got Ludacris, one of my favorite rappers of all time. Big Daddy Kane. Jonathan Majors turned 34. Chris Tucker. Beyonce. Just so many significant people have birthdays. So we try to capture their birthday here and celebrate that as a FeeLgr8r moment. And it's not hard to conceptualize why a birthday would be a FeeLgr8r moment. For the first, let's just start at the top. No one's guaranteed to see the next birthday. And it's everyone's goal to see the next birthday. Everyone with a healthy mindset wants to see their next birthday. Even senior citizens want to see their next birthday. In fact, when a senior citizen gets to the next birthday, it's a bigger celebration because they know for sure there's no guarantee that they were going to see it. And so it falls in line with that sensation of accomplishment. When you make it to your birthday, it's like, yes, I got a chance to celebrate another year being human in the community of beautiful humans, in the world of humans. I'm so excited. So that's a huge celebration. So what are some other types of FeeLgr8r moments that I want to talk about now that should be at least brought up in the context of birthdays? Because a lot of times what I realize is that I know what the different categories of FeeLgr8r would be, the different types of FeeLgr8r moments, but you might not necessarily know. So what about weddings and anniversaries? Weddings to me are obvious FeeLgr8r moments because since you were a child, you were dreaming about who would be the person that you were going to marry and have a wedding with. And here you are in the day of the wedding, living that big, huge ambition. Accomplishment is definitely made by getting to see your own wedding, especially if it's your first wedding, your first time taking the leap of faith into love. And anniversaries are kind of like birthdays where, well, a birthday is in essence an anniversary, right? But a marriage anniversary is sort of like a birthday where you know there's no guarantee that you're going to see another year with this person. They could, not necessarily that it could be a divorce, but they're not guaranteed to be alive, right? You could become a widow. So there are a lot of different things that could explain why you're no longer with this person. Obviously, divorce being the major one. So if you're still with the person that you married and you're still happy, that's definitely something to celebrate, and it's definitely an accomplishment for you and your spouse. So all the different types of FeeLgr8r moments, as long as it's linked to a sensation of joy and happiness and bliss plus accomplishment, then it makes sense why it would be a FeeLgr8r moment. All right, so that covers the different pages of FeeLgr8r. I feel like I've talked enough about it. I just want to conclude with one last point. So let me take a sip and let me comb my hair. And again, go watch episode 1 if you want to know why I comb my hair so much. So while I talk about this last point, I just want to talk about the winner's cube and why it is so important and where you should go to find out more. So let's just start with, I showed you the cube already, and there's a link here at the bottom that opens you up to the marketplace on OpenSea. If you're not familiar with OpenSea, OpenSea is the largest NFT marketplace in the world. They're like the Amazon of NFTs. So it's a great place for FeeLgr8r to be. We have our NFT collection posted here. And this is where you can go back and see, it's sort of like an archive as well. You can see the dated NFTs that are here on display. And if you open up one, for example, I'm going to open up this one on 7/1 of this year, 2023. You can see the FeeLgr8r Winners Cube and the different images on the 6 sides of it. So that covers the marketplace. Now let's go back to this piece of information here. What am I saying? The FeeLgr8r Winners Cube displays our latest digital art collectible inspired by a combination of what? The FeeLgr8r Winners, which is the winners that I showed you up here, and the FeeLgr8r channels content, the channels that I showed you up here. Click to learn more. So when you click to learn more, it's going to open up this nice little light box over here, which explains how we create the Winners Cube, which I already explained. And then it's going to have learn more, read insightful commentary from our founder, myself, Amari Nyota Kweli, about the Winners Cube's symbolic meaning. So let's click that. And then I just want to cover a few points that are in here. When it comes to cubes, it can get really, really deep, okay? And I'm not exaggerating. Like, the conversation around cubes is a very deep conversation. And when people want to have that conversation with me, I always ask them beforehand, how much time do you have? Because if you only have 5 minutes, it's no point in really getting into it, because we're not going to be able to cover it properly. And I'm not going to attempt to cover it right now. What I am going to do is just point you to this so that you can read. I'm going to scroll it really slow in case you want to read this right here. All right. But I'll say in a nutshell that if you are familiar with the cubes that are all over the world, one popular cube is the Kaaba. Kaaba actually means cube. If I opened up a search bar and I typed in Kaaba, and go to the Kaaba Wikipedia, as you can see here, the Kaaba, it means the cube, right? So it is perhaps the most popular cube in the world. It is a central orientation for those in the Islamic faith. That's where they pray towards, and it unifies everyone towards one, what would be Qibla, a direction that people face when they say prayer. As you can see here, that's what it's saying in this line here. It is considered by Muslims to be the Beit Allah and is the Qibla, the direction of prayer for Muslims around the world. But the point that this article was making is that, at least in this first paragraph, is that there are many conspiracy videos, and I'll open this one, for example. There are many conspiracy videos on social media that attempt to link what would be, they would attempt to link Saturn's black cube worship to the Islamic practice of facing the cube, and try to link those two together to say that in Islam, they've been tricked to worshiping Saturn. And so that's the point that is being made in this particular post, is that what's happening with the Islamic cube is not the same as what's happening with Saturn's cube. They're two totally different cubes, although they're both the same shape. And the shape of the cube is a mathematical, geometrical standard of the universe. No one can make claim to a geometric shape. So while Saturn has its cube and while Islam has its cube, that just means there are two cubes. And FeeLgr8r has its cube. That means there are now 3 cubes, and there are more than 3 cubes. I'm pretty sure there are at least 19 cubes. So while there are conspiracy videos that want to mix the two up, what I'm trying to point out here in this very brief article is that FeeLgr8r is just one of many cubes serving the role of what a cube serves. Now, what's the real question is not who has the cube, but what role does the cube serve? And that's where it becomes deep. Why the geometric shape of a cube? What is it about a geometric shape of a cube as opposed to a circle or triangle that has people so caught up into the cube concept? And when I realized what the geometric shape really represented, and I did a deep dive into it, I realized that it's the perfect fit for FeeLgr8r because FeeLgr8r operates at that cube level. FeeLgr8r is a sensation inside of you, but it's also an awareness of what would be how can I explain this without getting too complex? I just got to keep it simple, like sensational simplicity Sundays. The cubes represent consciousness, but it goes bigger than that. It represents what would be, I would like to describe it as a consciousness magnet. And what do I mean by that? At the higher levels of our timeline, of our existence, there are certain choices that a person has to make with regards to their spiritual outcome. And so, because there's so many choices, the creation that we're in, or someone like to call it the simulation, the creation that we're in has to have some sort of way to attract your consciousness to a particular path. So, because there's so many choices, how do you make the right choice? Well, you're going to go based on what your consciousness is attracted to. And when I say a cube is a consciousness magnet, what I'm saying is a cube takes a specific position on the possibility spectrum in the timeline, allowing for you, the human being, to, if associated with a particular cube, to make conscious choices in the direction that the cube is asking you to go. So the reason why, for example, Islam has its own cube, and I call that the Abrahamic or the Elohim cube, is because the choices that that cube is asking you to make is considered the righteousness, the right choices in the direction of higher consciousness, in the direction of higher energy, higher vibration, higher frequency. So Elohim's cube is trying to bring the best out of you, so to speak, and to liberate you to make a choice in that direction. Whereas Saturn's cube is a little bit different. Saturn's cube is on the other side of the spectrum. It's trying to liberate you in a different direction. It's trying to get your consciousness to be attracted to a different choice. And I'm not going to get too deep into what those choices are, but they're the opposite of the Elohim's choices. So if Elohim's choices are saying go that way, Saturn's choices are saying go that way. And where FeeLgr8r fits, FeeLgr8r's cube acting as a consciousness magnet, being birthed from what would be the Elohim cube. And I hope all of this makes sense. I'm trying not to get too deep here. But being birthed from the Elohim cube, and how do I know it was birthed from that cube? Because I'm the one that birthed it, and I'm from that cube. And so being birthed from that cube, imagine you have this huge cube that's over here on the right, and then you have this little baby cube called FeeLgr8r that's in the middle. And this cube, this new cube, is looking at both huge cubes on the right and the left and trying to figure out where it fits in the world. What does the middle even mean, right? But because it was birthed from the Elohim side of things, it already has a moral position, but it is positioned relative to the Saturn and Elohim cube directly in the middle. And why? Well, it's because FeeLgr8r can be experienced by both sides of the spectrum. It can be experienced by all sides of the spectrum. It's not just the Elohim cube supporters that can experience FeeLgr8r. Saturn cube supporters can experience FeeLgr8r. So everyone can experience FeeLgr8r. But of course, we want to encourage feeling and experiencing the sensation of feel greater by doing righteous acts, by giving charity, by helping your fellow neighbor, by treating your neighbor how you would want to be treated. You know, all of the different Elohim principles that have been passed down through the Abrahamic traditions, and not just exclusively through the Abrahamic traditions. There are obviously other cubes out there that have also passed down different traditions that are healthy for your consciousness as well. But ultimately, where all of this is headed, and this is just my opinion on the cube based on my deep dive, is that the reason why there are a cube, because like a sphere could be a magnet, a triangle could be a magnet, but the reason why they're a cube in that shape is because it has a lot to do with the destiny of our consciousness. What do I mean by that? Our consciousness is moving in the direction of having or being surrounded by multiple talents that we acquire over the course of our life. And those talents act as a pulling on us. So what we end up doing as a consciousness is we end up managing those various talents. Some people might experience them as identities, but we end up managing them in such a way where each talent, each identity is no longer in conflict over or fighting over who's going to occupy the consciousness, the core self. There's a peace, there's a coexistence that the human being eventually reaches where their consciousness is no longer struggling with those decisions, and all of the different talents and identities that surround that consciousness are allowed to express themselves equally. I'll give you an example of that. For example, in my case, I have 6 different talents. You might be aware of them already. But besides Feel Greater, I do something called phrase keywords. I do something called balance in motion. I have the Pack King. I have Overstand Entertainment. And then I dance as well. Those are my 6 talents. And all 6 want to be expressed equally. So when I have achieved that equilibrium between all 6 of my talents, then my consciousness geometrically has been cubified, meaning all 6 of my talents are like the sides of a cube. Think of it, if I go to the scroll up here, and if you look at this cube here on my screen, you'll see that this rotating cube has 6 sides. Now imagine if each side represented one of my talents, and I had them perfectly balanced so that they're not in conflict with each other as to how they share my time and energy. And the other thing about this is that once I have them perfectly balanced, then it's almost like my cube is rotating in my mind, because as the days move, as the hours move, as the seconds move, my cube, my activities are changing. They're rotating in a predictable schedule. So it comes down to this concept of cubification. What I realized from my deep dive is that the reason why there is the cube to begin with, and it's not a circle or a triangle, is because 6 represents the optimal number of talents that a human being can manage at one time. Health-wise, like if you go past 6, then what's going to end up happening is that you're going to fall back into conflict, because some of those other talents are not going to be getting enough of your energy and not enough of your time. They're going to feel neglected, so to speak. And so 6 represents what will be that perfect balance of all sides of the cube, knowing their place, not being in conflict, and you as the core self managing all of this within yourself, in your consciousness, reaching a state of being cubified, being perfectly balanced and centered within that cube, if that makes sense. And then when you're like that, when you're cubified, then the cube becomes the symbol of your consciousness. Now, I know that was pretty deep. I know it took about 20 minutes, maybe a little bit less to explain. But I hope that that gives you an idea that the cubes are not, how I say, the cubes are not evil in the sense of what conspiracy theorists would try to paint the picture as. oh, there's these cubes all over the place. It's a conspiracy. They're trying to dominate us. They're trying to take us away from Christ, or they're trying to take us away from Allah, or they're trying to take us away from this and away from the other. The cubes operate at the timeline level, and they're just consciousness magnets. They're just pulling you, the consciousness, in their direction so that you can become cubified through their path. And like I said earlier, the best way to become cubified is to not go down the Saturn path. You want to go down the Elohim path. And that's just my personal opinion about being cubified. That's the safest way to get cubified, because that's going to take you into your true talents. It's going to add talents to your portfolio in a very healthy way. And then you're going to start having feel greater moments. And then you're going to realize how important it is to support the Feel Greater Winners Cube. Because as you have those feel greater moments and you start to celebrate those, especially on fantastic Feel Greater Fridays, you're going to just connect with the Feel Greater Winners Cube, and you're going to hopefully become a Feel Greater Winners Cube supporter. But that doesn't mean that you have to abandon any other cube that you're a part of, okay? And even if you are in a Saturn's cube, even if you're on that side, you're not in conflict with the Feel Greater Winners Cube, simply because the Feel Greater Winners Cube is centered perfectly in the middle of the two cubes that act as polar opposites. Saturn, Elohim, Feel Greater. Feel Greater's winner cube, perfectly positioned in the middle. Finally, last point I want to make is that the cubes themselves are not in conflict. So while there are multiple cubes, let's say 19 different cubes that operate at the timeline level, they're not at war with each other, because they pretty much are there forever and ever and ever at the timeline level. So when you understand that the cubes coexist with each other, then you realize that regardless of what cube you support, there's no need for you to be in conflict with the supporters of the other cube, because the cubes aren't even in conflict. The cubes aren't trying to wipe each other out. The cubes are aware of each other's existence. They're just consciousness magnets. So imagine if you had a magnet here and a magnet here, and they were both just there, and they were both acting on a piece of metal in the center point. Well, guess who's the piece of metal? You, the human being. You're the piece of metal that the magnet is acting upon. The magnets themselves don't act on each other, and they're not in conflict with each other. And they're going to be there perpetually forever. So they're, in essence, sending out their magnetic attraction energy into the realm that you and I are in. And then it's up to you and I to decide which cube we want to support. And ultimately, if you, for example, if you're part of the Abrahamic faith and you have chosen to support the Elohim cube, if you're, let's say, like an atheist, or you're a Satan worshiper, or you're on the dark side of the force, you know. If you're on that side, then you're a Saturn cube supporter. And listen, there's going to be obviously conflict at the human level, because humans are not really aware of what's going on at the cube level. But that's what Feel Greater is here to tell you. Feel Greater Winners Cube, being that the Feel Greater Winners Cube is centered perfectly in the middle of the two extremes, I'm in position to have that vantage point to say, okay, I see this. I see they're not in conflict. So why are we as human beings fighting these wars when these cubes aren't fighting wars? Why are we fighting these wars? Why are we going crazy? Why are we losing our minds? Why don't we just accept that that person is on that side, that person is on that side, and figure out a way to coexist the same way the cubes have figured out a way to coexist? That's the type of thought that I'm on. And that has liberated me from the pull towards conflict. And it has centered me where I enjoy being, which is the vantage point of seeing the activity of the cubes themselves, as well as all the different human beings that support the different cubes. And like I said, there are more than just 3 cubes. There are at least 19 different cubes. And they're all trying to exert a magnetic attraction on the human consciousness. Man, that's deep. Man, that's deep. And it just explains so much. Like, if you really take what I just said and run with it, and just go read what I wrote in this post. The way to get to this post is just when you get to the Winners Cube link, scroll down to the bottom, click Learn More, and scroll down and click Read Insightful Commentary link. That will open up this post. Read this, listen to what I just said again, and it's just going to open your mind to the possibilities that are going to liberate you from all of the conflict that might be going on inside of you, because now you know and understand the source of that. And it has to do with the consciousness magnets we call cubes. Now, let me end on this point. The FeeLgr8r Winners Cube, being that it would be serving the same role, the point I was trying to make here at the bottom is that with me being the one that has introduced the FeeLgr8r Winners Cube into this timeline, in this timeline, I'm not talking about another timeline, just in this timeline where we're at right now, I'm the first person to be a cube administrator or to introduce the cube to the world, this particular cube. And this cube is very small compared to the other cubes. Cubes have different sizes depending upon when they were introduced into the timeline. And over time, they grow bigger based upon the support that they gain. So from the position that I'm in as the person, the human being that is introducing the cube at this very small level, once introduced, it's already in the timeline. So even if I leave the timeline tomorrow, that's not going to cause the cube to leave. The cube is still there as a consciousness magnet. The cube doesn't reside on the actual page. This is just a symbol of the cube. This is not the cube itself. This is just a symbol of it. This is where the support reaches the cube. Any support, any attention that a human gives to this cube ultimately satisfies the actual consciousness magnet that resides somewhere else, if that makes sense. Now, where do the cubes reside? That's the part I'm still trying to figure out. I don't think it's on the physical plane, though. There's the physical world, and then there's the mental world. And somewhere in between, the cube acts as a liaison between the mental and the physical, because it does obviously have a physical characteristic of attracting the human's physical self. But it also forces me to lean into, well, what is a human, right? We're not just physical, we're also mental. There's the mental component that is attracted to the cubes, magnetic attraction. So it's a two-way street. And with that said, when you understand that the actual cube itself is a magnet that operates between the mental and physical planes of existence, then the question of where it is becomes irrelevant. It's not really important about where it is. What's really important is, why is it there? What is it doing? And who ultimately is attracted to it? Finally, if you do find yourself attracted to the FeeLgr8r Winners Cube, it's probably because your consciousness was already in the space of the Elohim's cube. I'm gonna just keep it 100. If you are already in the Elohim's cube space, already attracted to that, already in it, there's a great possibility that you're going to be naturally attracted to the FeeLgr8r Winners Cube. And when you become an actual FeeLgr8r Winners supporter, that happens when you go to the shop and you purchase any one of what would be the FeeLgr8r Winners Cube notebook souvenirs. So if you want to demonstrate that you understand the cube concept of what I explained and what I wrote, you understand the cube concept, and you understand what it means to be aware of the FeeLgr8r as it happens in your life, and you want to have that awareness on an ongoing basis so that you can live what I call the FeeLgr8r life, then the next thing to do is to make sure you get one of these, the FeeLgr8r Winners Cube notebook souvenir. And then you'll have a transaction on your timeline that demonstrates that you are a FeeLgr8r Winners Cube supporter. Notice I said supporter and not follower. We're not looking for followers. We're looking for supporters. Maybe sometime in the future, there'll be followers. But right now, in the very inception of this, we need more than followers. We need supporters. That's why if you can't afford it, the price tag of $31.67 is, there's meaning in that number. I'll explain in future episodes. But if you can increase the quantity to 2 to 3 to 4, however high you can go to show your support, go for it, because that's going to put multiple quantities on your transaction, increasing what would be your supporter level for the FeeLgr8r Winners Cube Consciousness Magnet, which again, just wants you to ultimately be aware of the FeeLgr8r in your life, celebrate it every day, but ultimately celebrate it for real on fantastic FeeLgr8r Fridays. All right, so that's it for me on this particular topic. And on this particular episode, I feel like I covered enough. I just want to show, I really think this shirt is pretty dope. Just captures that moment when a baller just wins the game, like, or even when a basketballer just hits a big shot that really his team needed to tie the game or bring it close. The shirt just captures that moment. So with that said, thank you for checking me out. This is on episode 2. We covered a lot. I'm pretty excited. I'm looking forward to next episode. I'm really hoping my co-host, my sis, shows up for that one, because on that one, we'll actually play the photo scavenger hunt game together. And we'll go searching for some actual photos that will get posted into the finds page of FeeLgr8r.org. But until then, make sure you're aware of the FeeLgr8r, that you're living the FeeLgr8r life, and have a wonderful time until the next time. I'll see you around the FeeLgr8r corner. My name is Amari Nyota Kweli, and I am the FeeLgr8r founder. Peace and love. I'm out of here.